Hello everyone, this is Aeroica, and thanks so much for being here for another video. No, this is not How to Train Your Dragon, but her name is Astrid, a fire-based warrior tank with an apparent temper problem and hatred for demons. It's a call to arms as we take a look at this new hero and see if she can provoke you into unlocking her for your arsenal. In her fully ascended form, Astrid comes with some pretty cool armor. She gets a shield crest with what looks like a chicken, and a rather interesting polearm. While I do like the armor, I wish the polearm was a little more ornate as it is in her character picture. If we click on the question mark, you'll see that Astrid is only available in the heroic portal and from periodic events, as well as packages purchased in the in-game shop. For the purposes of this video, my Astrid is a 4-star fully ascended hero and is level 70 along with all of her abilities. If we look at the Stats tab, we can take a look at her numerical statistics. Please note that she does not have any inherent resistances to cold, disease, freeze, and lightning, but does have a 31% resistance to fire and a 16% resistance to poison. As a fire hero, she has a standard 30% advantage against nature heroes and a negative 25% towards water heroes. When looking at her traits, her first is called Cloth Guardian and provides a 50% defense buff for all healers and casters. This trait will provide some much needed reinforcement to some otherwise fragile caster heroes. Her next trait is called Demon Hunter and provides boosted damage against demon enemies. Her third trait is called Armored and will decrease damage from physical attacks. Her next trait is called Choking Provoke, which, if an enemy is taunted by an attack with a provoke component, will ensure that the attacking enemy cannot have crit damage. Her last trait is called Just a Scratch, and when faced with an enemy that has a lower attack rating than her defense rating, the attack will only do 1 damage and will increase her attack power by 10% to a maximum of 100% for a single encounter. The attack buff will then reset as you progress through the dungeon, and keep in mind that this only applies to melee attacks and will not be influenced by any ranged abilities. When we look at her abilities tab, we see her basic attack with no added components. Her second ability is called Boomerang Shield and is an AoE attack that not only does damage, but can also apply the off-balance status Affliction, which will lower the attack power by 70%. Her third ability is called Embarrassing Jab and will also deal damage while also causing the provoke status on the enemy. Upon successful application, the provoke status will force the enemy to attack Astrid on their next turn, even if there's an active taunt. Her last ability is called Derision, and will not only cause the provoke ability, but will also transfer a debuff that Astrid is afflicted with to the target. This could be an excellent way to use some of the debuff powers available to the enemy and use it against them. Astrid's first Ascension requirements are 20 Fire Evo Larva, 25 Fire Evos, 35 Fire Evo Monarchs, and 2 Arcane Evos. Meeting this requirement will give you the Boomerang Shield 2 and Embarrassing Jab abilities, as well as the Cloth Guardian 2 and Choking Provoke traits. Her second Ascension requirements are 39 Dark Evos, 32 Nature Evo Monarchs, 8 Cold Fire Evos, and 2 Infinity Evos. Meeting this requirement will give you the Boomerang Shield 3 and Derision abilities, along with the Cloth Guardian 3 and Just a Scratch traits. Astrid is a little hard to define, but her role could best be described as supportive. If we look at her title as being a warrior tank, she does play both roles as fairly as possible for being a hybrid class. While she lacks an official taunt, 2 of her abilities carry the pseudo-taunt Provoke, but it might be hard-pressed to have her solo tank a dungeon with larger packs of enemies on the platform without a little assistance from Ice Bloom's Misdirect. Taunts aside, she does carry similar defensive qualities that are very near to that of the bread-and-butter tanks in the dungeon boss game. Her 6-star defense rating is 1,988, with Igorox listed as 1998. Additionally, she carries 6271 for a health pool, with Pygneus listed as 6292. Where we might see a slight diversion in these similarities is the attack power, where there may be as much as a 200-point difference in favor of the true tank. That being said, it's not as though her damage is not noticeable, and her abilities and traits make any gap in damage less impacting. Her Cloth Guardian and its 50% defensive increase to casters and healers means you can take extra caster DPS in your party and more than make up for any negligible difference in tank DPS. In fact, this trait is so beneficial, I was actually able to tank a short dungeon using Nub Nub as a tank. While it was not always pretty, he was certainly able to take the incoming damage, and the extra caster DPS made short work of some of the platforms. With her increased damage against demons and her choking provoke trait, which prevents crit damage from enemies attacking under the provoke status, she does her fair share in both the DPS and tanking role. However, if there was one component of her character which stands out, it would have to be the Just a Scratch trait. While only applicable to melee attackers, if the attacking enemy has a lower attack power than her current defense rating, the attack will only do a single point in damage and boost her attack power by 10% for each occurrence, up to 100%. You may be asking, well, how do I know if an enemy has a lower attack power than Astrid? And well, you make it happen with her Boomerang Shield ability, which at its highest level will reduce the enemy's attack power by 70%. Odds are that a 70% reduction in attack power will put the mob far under Astrid's defense rating, and thus create the very environment you want. Of course, with no taunt, you'll have to figure out a way to bring the mobs to her, as even the last two abilities, which carry the provoke component, are not enough to truly gain its full benefit. This is where pairing her with Ice Bloom would be beneficial, provided she is also effective in the dungeon beyond her misdirect ability. Remember, this will only apply to melee enemies, and thus you will need to decide if the dungeon you're considering is conducive to making this character design beneficial. From a PvP perspective, Astrid can bring life to some newer, fresher, and more difficult compositions. With the 50% defensive buff, Pontifex, Kai, and Ice Pick, to name a few, could present new challenges in the PvP arena. Additionally, even with Kai on the defensive opener, it would not prevent the off-balance status from being applied via Astrid's Boomerang Shield ability. This could seriously nullify both single and AoE attacks, especially if you brought your own Kai Makani with you. I could even see Zen playing a role with the haste component of his first ability heal and helping to get these two tactics in play. With her second and third stage abilities having the provoke status as an attack component, Astrid's damage intake would be very minimal, with her damage output being apparent. That being said, she does have a 666 ability cooldown, and depending on the length of the fight, this setup may not have time to be fully realized. Energy-generating heroes, such as Echo and Dagrand, may need to be considered, especially if Ice Bloom's misdirect will be part of your strategy. Before I go, some of you have been asking me about when I do my live streams, and the truth is they're a bit random right now, but I am planning on doing them on some form of a regular schedule in the near future. However, the biggest issue is that some of my subscribers have stated that while they're getting notifications about new videos, they're not getting notifications when I go live for a streaming event. So I did a little research, and in order for you to be notified about that, you need to do one simple thing depending on the device or devices that you use. If you use a PC, you're going to go to youtube.com, look up my channel Aeroica Gaming, and as long as you're subscribed, on the right hand side you'll see a little gear. Click on that and click the option for send me all notifications for this channel. If you're on a mobile device like Android or Apple, again, you go to the same channel, subscribe if you haven't done that, and then click the little bell icon also on the right hand side, and this will, according to tech support, allow you to be notified when I go live with a streaming event. You can also follow me on Twitter for game updates, new hero releases, tactics, and other information. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you at the next video.